Okay. Can everyone hear me? That's admitted to the room.
This is Heidi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm sitting at a restaurant at the beach, so just bear with me.
I can hear you.
This is Heidi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm sitting at a restaurant at the beach, so just bear with me.
I can hear you.
This is Heidi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm sitting at a restaurant at the beach, so
I can hear you.
this is Heidi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm sitting at a restaurant at the beach.
Hang on a second. I think I have a streaming problem in my voice, so I'm going to take care of that. Okay, we're waiting for Bill to come online. Let's see. There are a few people that are in the waiting room that are not board members or invited staff, so they need to go to the live streaming site. Waiting room that are not board members or invited staff, so they need to go to the live.
Ginger, there's like a weird feedback and like, I don't know what's going on, but it's like you keep hearing.
I'm not seeing anybody in a waiting room.
Well,
Anybody in a waiting room.
there are people in a waiting room, but there shouldn't be people in a waiting room.
Well, anybody in a waiting room.
There are people in a waiting room, but there shouldn't be people in the waiting room.
Ginger, there's like a weird feedback and like, I don't know what's going on, but it's like you keep hearing. There's like.
Will everyone put their mute on for a minute? Okay. I think that fixed that particular problem. Okay. All right, you can unmute now. I think I've fixed the source of the loop. And let's see. We have a few people who are guests. And I need the guests to go to the live stream rather than join the board meeting. So I'm going to remove them. And if you were removed and on the list, it's because you should be going to the live stream for the meeting, for the work session. Thank you. And let's see. So Glenn, you have a quorum, so you can start the meeting if you'd like.
Perfect, thank you. Apologize for my tardiness. I'll call this meeting, this work session to order. We will start with a roll call.
I'm not seeing cameras on for everyone. Does everyone have their camera on, please? We only have 3 people on camera. There was 4. Good. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and do roll call. Bill?
Sherry, you don't have to, staff do not have to have their camera on, just the board.
Ricardo?
Here.
Crystal?
Here.
Jill?
Here.
Heidi?
Here.
And your smiling face. Jason?
Oh,
Chair is present. So yes, we have a quorum.
Bill was just added.
Okay. Bill, do you want to chime in for roll call?
He's struggling with tech tonight. He said he's working on it. I just received an email.
I might be in by voice.
There he is. Thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
Okay, if you guys would all join me for the flag salute and pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our
Okay.
first item is board communication enrollment update and economic forecast. Are you handling that, Ginger?
Yes, just wanted to give you a quick update that we are currently down approximately 50. In the next couple weeks, that could change. It could go up pretty quickly. So we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. The economic forecast that was announced on the 30th of, it's going to be released on the 30th, was pretty good, very positive. It looks like the people have been able to pay their taxes. So more revenues come in than they expected, which is a ray of sunshine in our world. We were very worried about that. So that's just to give you a little information about that.
So the drop in enrollment, I do have a question. The drop in enrollment, is it across all four schools, or is it kind of concentrated in one area, or?
I think it's across the board.
Is it? Yeah. So that's just a general drop in. Okay. Thank you very much. The economic forecast was enlightening, so and very hopeful. All right, moving on to the work session part of our meeting. This is pretty semi-formal, these work sessions. So I don't know if you want to take it, Ginger, and just sort of give us a little bit of background and some of the communication that went out clarifying these.
Sure.
Why these are needed.
Well, the question that came up is one, do we have to have these policies, or are they optional? Two, are there money coming from the feds to help offset the cost of providing these leaves? And three, why are we doing it? So we were able to reach out and get some information from OSBA. And what we've found is the leave law was tied to the federal Families First Coronavirus Response Act. It was to help families that may have to take leave for a variety of reasons, like not having childcare or being told that they need to quarantine or and weren't being paid for it. And anyway, it's just to close gaps that may appear in economic streams to keep everything going. So with that in mind, OSBA's, you saw the letter or the email from him, from Spencer, discussing why it existed and sharing the news that no, we're not getting federal funds to offset these costs. And is it something that we can not give staff? The answer is no. We are required to give staff the option to use these leaves should they need it, should they meet the criteria. But we do not have to adopt the policies. So my recommendation is still that you adopt the policy and then the Administrative Regulation 1 at a minimum for guidance for our use. So that's pretty much what I have to offer about that.
So does that clarify for everybody? This is just a work session, so we'll deal with these, I'm assuming, at a board meeting. That's probably the best thing to do with adoption and first reading on these at an actual business meeting.
Yeah.
But does anybody have any other questions regarding those first three?
Well, I noticed on the AR that there is no end date listed on them. And the information that we received said it was only in effect till 12/31/2020. And before I would ever consider anything like that, I would want an end date on this AR.
I think one of the AR states, if correct me if I'm wrong, Crystal, I think I'm just recalling off the top of my head, it says it ends when the act expires, which I think is at
The document you sent me actually said December 31st of 2020.
and that
Wasn't in the AR.
okay. All right, so we have a good end date on it. So what are your thoughts about that, Crystal? What would that end date look like? The one that officially matches when the act expires?
Yes.
Okay.
My only other thing is, when they broached this topic to us at work, this was included in our FMLA and our already paid time off. It wasn't 2 weeks in addition to our paid time off. It fell in the OPL. So I want to make sure that's what it is. We're not giving 2 additional weeks on top of everything else. That was my concern.
Yeah, leave laws are very, very, as you know, very, very complicated. And when our new person comes on board, she knows a great deal about those things. So one of the things I'm asking her to do is to provide a workshop for everyone on the leave laws and what they have access to and what they don't. So I think that will help clear up everything, not only for us in policy, but also for staff as well.
Correct. I've been to one of those. That helps a lot for people.
All right, if there's no other questions on that, let's move along to item B. And do you want to give us some background on that, Ginger?
Oh, yes. This is, I have a few things to share. I don't know if you have the document. I will need the board to work with me on implementing this new Oregon Administrative Regulation since it impacts many of our policies. So we're going to need to do a little policy work. In general, it's designed to, the statement, all students belong is the feeling. And what we're trying to make sure that's happening is that in a very tense environment and where stress is on high and where we're seeking to create a safe place for students, that we do everything we possibly can to, one, make sure that we have policies in place that students know that there are some things that just by their physical presence cause stress and pain and suffering among students. So having a process to support students through learning about those things, learning about how inadvertent bias acts can have an impact on the student's ability to learn, to feel safe. Policy is in place for making sure that students who are impacted by it have support. For students who inadvertently, perhaps, or intentionally did something that caused harm to someone, that there's a restorative approach to healing, that everyone uses that as a learning process, and to make sure that our administrative regulations and how we implement that are in place, that we have no policies in place that are punitive with respect to trying to make students feel safe, because there's a contradiction there. There is a lot of information in that document about how to get there. There's a lot of guidance, sample policies from other school districts, resources in which to educate staff, toolkits for the community, suggestions for how to go about doing the work. And the number one most important fact about this is that the deadline is January 1, 2021 to have a policy in place. So for the next few months, I'm going to ask the board to be doing some work. Board sessions are the place to have conversations about policies that are being developed, how to fine tune them, how to make them work for North Marion. And board business meetings are where we vote on board business. So it's better to really hash things out in a work session and spend time on that, focused on that. So that's basically it. I mean, there's a lot of work, a lot of work to do on this one.
Yeah, and because of our retreat upcoming, I'm hoping we can work in tandem to work on the resolution that we want to see happen, but also incorporate that into actionable policies.
Yes, and I think
going forward, so
actually has the language that we were seeking to find about how to describe the things that we want for our students in the future, that we want to create for our community. Actually exists in some of these documents. So I was very hopeful about that. So I will, on Friday with my weekly update, send a few of those documents or recommend reading to help prepare for the retreat and then for the policy work. It seems to all be coming together.
Can I make a quick comment on All Students Belong? Carmen Urbina and I were giving a workshop at the November convention, OSBA, which is virtual this year. And we put that aside at my request. And instead, Colt Gill and Carmen Urbina will be giving a full workshop on All Students Belong in the morning. So I withdrew my workshop for them to do the All Students Belong. So there will be a workshop in the AM session on Saturday for the convention.
any other questions or comments on that?
I would just add, as Crystal, like the sooner I can have those policies to read, the better. I never like to receive a first reading policy for a business meeting if they want approval.
Right.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to go back to our habit of having a first and a second read, except for minor edits where they're just updating, they're changing and the number of the ORS at the bottom of the page. There's no policy change kind of thing. But other than that, I think we should go back to a first reading, second reading.
Sounds good.
A couple of things that I input at the ODE meeting where this was passed. One, the 3 leaders of the OSBA did sign a letter, which means me, for OSBA in support of this. The second thing I pointed out to ODE is that I didn't want it so restricted that you couldn't teach the history of some of these things if properly done, because kids need to understand the history and where these things come from, and some of the things that these symbols represent, because they will see them in culture and society and various other things, but that we didn't have it so restrictive that you actually delete the history was incorrect in my world. So that was my feedback to ODE.
Yeah, it's really important that the symbols that should not be used for the general in a non-instructional setting. I mean, it's very clear there are the times in which those symbols are an important part of the curriculum in teaching history. So keeping them in that context is I think, fair to everyone. Okay, and then the last thing I wanted to do is to show in this work session, to give you an opportunity to look at, and Sherry's online, she can talk to you about these things in a second. This document, let's see if I can get it on my screen. Virtual background doesn't like green, there it is. And I should have done my mirror screen, sorry I didn't. Anyway, the power standards for comprehensive distance learning that the state reviewed and decided, how can we reasonably teach a small set of very powerful, very meaningful, and worthwhile standards in a short year. And Sherry had the teachers work with these sets of standards that came through. The social science one I was particularly interested in because it deals with a lot of the issues that we're addressing right now. And I was happy to see in the social science document, developing the literacy at the resources page. It provides leveraging the expertise and resources of community partners in schools, which is very much part of the All Students Belong. It's part of what we're trying to do, making sure that everyone feels welcome and part of the educational program. It includes tribal history, the history of Black pioneers, Oregon heritage, the Oregon Historical Society, the Oregon Jewish Museum, and Japanese American Museum of Oregon. I mean, there's a lot of resources. These are very densely packed materials that Sherry's been having the teachers work with for all the content areas. And it ties, it's all coming together. This is not incongruent with the other activities that we're doing. And I'm very happy with that. But I thought that might also be something that we could look at in light of all the work that we're doing to see how differently the state is approaching resources that are real and meaningful and not just in a particular textbook per se. Sherry, would you like to add anything to that comment or conversation?
Hello. I really have nothing to add except for the fact that was very, very pleasantly surprised to see the work that ODE put forth on behalf of teachers everywhere to really highlight the most important pieces for the prioritized standards for our teachers to focus on during distance learning. So that was really helpful. The social studies standards are not new standards, and the things that Ginger is referring to have been rolled out maybe 2 years ago now, and we have already been working last year on some of the model lessons in some of those areas at North Marion for the 4th, 8th, and 10th grade years. So I'm just really pleased with the work ODE has put forward on behalf of social study standards, but they actually put out guidance in every area that I was able to forward to our teachers during pre-service week. And so that was really, really useful. And that was just great stuff.
So Any questions at this point? Because that's pretty much all I wanted you to all have exposure to, have the context for why we were looking at it, and hope and encourage you to begin to review those documents before.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, Ginger. How are we doing with connectivity? And I really don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm hearing, some mixed bag, and I just wondered how we're doing working through that, because I know there's a few issues, and I just wondered how that's going with the distance learning.
Well, we're not at 100%. Our goal is 100%. We're going to get there, and it's 100% as in we're trying to determine which families cannot benefit from distance learning or cannot access distance learning. For example, hotspots are great if you have self-service in your area. If you don't have self-service, you do nothing. So we're looking at the putting hotspots on buses if a person's in a cell area. We have a GIS map of families who responded to the survey and what pockets or areas they live in and whether or not those areas have cell service. So that's helping us. So we're problem solving for the families that are having difficulty. We understand that families are getting the help when they go right to the school and or the tech support line, because we have a 678 tech is our tech support line, that someone is available to them in the mornings and in the evenings and will help them problem solve. And if not, if it's a different issue, we'll send them to the right person to get that solved. So we're working really hard on that, and we're not there yet. We still have 150 families that we're reaching out to that need interpreters for us to be able to complete the survey information that we need. So we're working very hard to get all families connected one way or the other. And even those families that are we're working with interpreters, they're still connected somehow. It's an awkward start. There are still some schools that haven't started up yet. They're still having problems. So we're not alone in this. But I think that Sherry and our teachers have done a fabulous job, and our counselors have done a fabulous job. And a nod to our tech department and Greg of troubleshooting and really, making lemonade from lemons in a COVID environment and trying to make things work. And we have staff that are willing to come in and work and make sure that people, kids have supplies, that people have the help that they need. People are signing up to help. We're a good, strong community that way.
Yeah, thank you. And we're geographically a big district, so we cover a lot of geography that's not always covered, like you said, with self-service. And sometimes you can't foretell those problems until you try and produce results through them. But how are we doing in responding to those kids that are having connectivity issues? Are we back to working with them in paper? Are we how are we reaching out to them?
They're in contact with their families. The families and the counselors are in contact with the teachers, helping them access materials in a different way. Yeah.
Good. The other thing too, Ginger, would you mind? I know you had Greg to kind of take on the role of trying to do some of the tech support for these meetings. Would you just give we've had that conversation, but I just wanted the board to understand what kind of what Greg's role is for our board meetings, and then as well as if at some point we get to go face to face, exactly kind of what his role is going to be for you to help you out that way.
Yeah. Greg is great at problem solving, and we used to use the term, as something he and I discussed today, for major tech support, we would call it hand holding. And I guess in modern times, you can't use that term anymore. But he is making sure that we are able to accomplish the things we want to do with technology, because he understands the component pieces and how to integrate them more seamlessly. He told me, you know, you don't have to watch the live stream at the same time as the meeting. You're going to get stuck in a loop. And it was like, oh, it's me. Okay. So I went in and turned off my view of the live stream, and that solved that problem. So his job is support behind the scenes in helping me set it up. Diane's helping with the technical assistant. Linda Murray is also going to help out in monitoring when people get stuck. We'll keep the communication flowing. We've sent out the updates about the live stream. We sent it to all staff today to make sure that they had access to that address so they could watch the meeting. And then eventually we'll figure out as we go face to face how to live stream a meeting with a camera on the board, engaging in business, and then live stream at the same time with no one else in the room. So, and then that way people who have, you know, even board members that have to mitigate some sort of risk and say, no, I'm not ready for face-to-face yet, can still engage fully. And we'll work through this. We will work through this. So
absolutely. And I appreciate Greg's help, and I appreciate your, you know, focusing on getting this. I would just like to, you know, for the members of our community who want to get engaged in these meetings and who want to stay up to date as what's going on. I apologize for the connectivity issues that have existed in the past. You know, this is a step towards making sure that everybody has access to these meetings fully, and in, you know, and as live time as we can make them. So again, I appreciate your patience for the community members who we appreciate you being actively engaged and wanting to stay up and what's going on in the district. So I just wanted to add that plug in there, because I know we've had issues with you know, getting people on, or people, you know, not being able to access it in real time. So I do appreciate everybody's patience, and I appreciate everybody wanting to be engaged there as well too. So, with that, I don't have anything more.
I just have one question.
Go ahead.
And I could be wrong, but do we have a policy on not having a political stance readily available from the teachers with the social science piece, with elections coming and how difficult it has been on multiple avenues? I was just wondering if we had a policy on that. I can look at our thing, but you know, just with reading that whole document on social science and how they said that you can use examples from your judgment and everything else, I want to make sure that we are not pushing a political agenda one way or the other.
yeah, we shouldn't be. And we're supposed to be neutral.
Okay.
Teachers do have their, you know, we can't stop them from wearing a button. They do have political rights as well, but it's very tightly explained. And we usually about this time of year send out a notice of guidelines for public employees, what you can and cannot do. So teachers fall into that. And I do believe their associations remind them of what their limits are as well.
Can we request as a board for that to be sent out again? Glenn, I'm not sure if we can or not.
I leave that at Ginger's discretion. I think that's something that happens, and she's already cognizant of it. So I don't want to overstep what we should and shouldn't be doing and telling her how to do her job. But I think obviously she's been made aware of it here just in this forum now. So yep.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, and if Christoph, you have some concerns, please let me know.
I have a question. First of all, in these Zoom meetings, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, maybe a way for us to know when we can talk or have a question would be, I raised my hand a while ago, and we could kind of monitor that instead of just cutting in and talking and speaking over each other. Another way, a question I had going back to social sciences, is that a document that is available to be reviewed by us and by parents somewhere?
Yes, that's why I included it in your board packet, and then everything in the board packet is on the website. And then also you can go to the ODE link and then look up the standards as well. They're there for all the content areas, not just social science.
But that particular document that we'll be using for our school is that available for public review somewhere?
Yeah, it's the Oregon Department of Education's document.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else have their hand up that I cannot see? Had any other questions? With that, I guess I will adjourn this work session, and thank you for the input and the information, and much appreciated. So we're adjourned.
Thank you, Glenn.